Awesome. Thank you, Gavin, for that introduction. And thank you for providing the context in those interesting statistics around Generation Z's view of modern mining and their regard for it and the particular concerns that they hold. I think a lot of those points will really underpin the discussion here today, and also the discussion that will take place in subsequent panels this afternoon. So certainly we need to appreciate what those issues are and really think how we can authentically and transparently reassure the next generation of mining workforce that their concerns are valid and are being addressed. So my name is Sam Skinner. I'm the Policy Manager of Industry Skills and Careers at New South Wales Minerals Council. I work with our members to encourage and strengthen a sustainable pipeline of talent, get the fun times of working with high school students, teachers, parents, universities to really look at the long view of people who are going to be inspired to come and work for the mining industry, not just in the next 2 to 3 years, but in the decades to come. With me today, I have a wonderful panel, and full disclosure, I do know all these people quite well, and I picked them because I think that they all have great stories to share. So to my left here, I have Larissa Weir, who's the Group Manager of People and Capability at the Bloomfield Group based in Maitland in the Hunter Valley of New South Wales. Thank you, Larissa. Larissa also chairs my Careers Working Group, and she's a great supporter of our program. Taps, or Tapuwa Shambira, who's a graduate mechanical engineer with Yancoal, also in the Hunter Valley. Taps has very kindly given her time to speak to those students, parents and teachers at careers dinner events, and she's a great advocate for the industry and a really inspiring role model to young people who are considering their pathway. And we also are very pleased to have Professor Ismet Canbulat, who's the head of the School of Mineral Energy and Resource Engineering at UNSW Sydney. We do a lot of work together. Together we are working towards building the number of commencing first year students into the mining engineering degree, and as we'll discuss over the course of this next half hour, we've got some particular targets that we want to hit, haven't we, Ismet?
Yes.
No shame about it. We've got some ambitions.
Ambitious, yeah.
So we'll talk today a little bit about how we're going to leverage some attraction drivers, making the mining industry a career destination of choice for young people, and thinking about whose role it is to really nurture that future talent pipeline. Without too much, I'm not going to underplay the importance of role models and key influences either. There's certainly, as we see in the work that we do, that critical message that needs to come not only from industry reputational messaging, but also from people who are close to young people who are considering their career pathway, the people that they respect and value opinions of, their parents, their careers advisors, their peers, the media, and so forth. So there are a lot of things going on. But not to take up all the time, I'd like to start today's discussion. I'm really interested to know, our topic today is attracting the next generation of mining talent. What attracted you to the mining industry? Larissa?
Thanks, Sam. So I grew up in Newcastle, in and around the coal-rich Hunter Valley. So I think it was always going to be in my blood. My dad was a coal miner. He came home from work every day talking about what a wonderful industry it is to work in. That's where he's made a lot of his friends and connections. So when a role came up, an entry-level role, when I was at university, I took that challenge on board. And I can say 15 years later that I'm still feeling that. I've created a lot of really good friendships and connections in the industry. I find it to be a very supportive industry. I've grown a lot in my role since that entry-level role. I found that people are always willing to mentor you and support you, and there's that real teamwork and opportunity. So I'm finding a lot of the things that my dad found back then are still there now. Certainly what keeps me in the industry to this day.
So essentially, it was a family connection. You saw the work that your dad was doing in the industry, and there's a phrase that gets bandied around a lot: you can't be what you can't see, and it's really important that you saw that. And again, the value of mentoring, I think, is something that will come up further in this discussion. Taps, I know you've got a really interesting story about how you came into the mining industry. Can you share a little bit of that with us?
Yeah, so I grew up in Orange in the Central West, and neither of my parents are involved in the mining industry, but as some of you might know, we've got Newcrest Gold out in Orange. So obviously a lot of people within the town were employed by the mining industry, but because I didn't have that family connection like Larissa, I didn't exactly have, I guess, an insight into the industry. It was just more, oh yeah, pretty much everyone in town works out at the mines. And in my last year of high school, I babysat for a beautiful family. They had 4 kids. Both the mum and the dad both worked in the mining industry, and this was my first bit of, I guess, exposure to a woman in the industry, let alone a woman that was an engineer as well. So I'd spent a lot of time, like, you know, once I'd get back from work, I'd sort of hang around a bit and I'd ask her about her experience of entering the industry, what her day-to-day was like, her journey. And for me, that was really good exposure to see that, okay, there's a woman in the industry, she's made it work. I guess it's easier to feel like you can do something if you've seen someone else similar to you also achieving in that area. I'd had an incident with one of the kids. He'd gone missing after school one day. And it was the little one too, the baby in the family. Basically just didn't get off the bus, and all the other kids got off and they're like, Taps, he's missing, he's on the bus. And I was like, oh, this is problematic, your mum's underground. So as a frazzled 17-year-old, I spent the next hour just trying to brainstorm, trying to figure out how I was going to get this kid back before his mum got back into town. I told her the situation. And once she'd gotten back, she was just super impressed by how I'd handled the situation. And she'd been telling some people at work, some of the people she sits with for lunch, one of which happened to be the HR manager, and they had a scholarship going at the time. And she was wondering, you know, is Taps planning on going to uni? Like, what are her plans? She sounds like someone that would be perfect for us to support with this scholarship. And so, yeah, she'd come home one day and she said, I think you should really apply for this scholarship. It sounds like, you know, you'd be a perfect candidate to receive a bit of assistance while you're at uni, and you've got a lot of the skill sets that we're looking for. So applied for that, got the scholarship. That sort of got me interested in joining the mining industry. And then once I was at uni, I participated in a number of clubs and societies that sort of focused on the mining industry, like AusIMM, and got to go on some mine tours, which were really, really interesting. I think that for me was the moment that I started to gain a lot of interest in the mining industry. There's something special that happens when you arrive at a mine site and you see one of the big dump trucks for the first time. They just... people can explain those things to you, but until you're standing there looking up at this massive piece of equipment, you can't fathom how big they really are and how cool that sort of stuff is. So that was just sort of, I guess, my journey into the mining industry.
So let me get this right. You lost a kid, you problem solved how to find the kid, and that got you a scholarship to uni. That's great.
Pretty much, yeah.
Ismet, I guess we could say that you're the veteran of the industry on our panel today.
Right.
What attracted you to the mining industry?
Well, my story is not as excited as Larissa's or Tab's. I got into mining industry by accident. I couldn't still figure out how I ended up getting into mining industry, but I studied the first year maths and science and all that. But at the time when I studied, it was you had to do WAC work after the first year. So you do WAC work for over 4 years. And I did the WAC work on the first year, and the rest was history really. And then I just loved it being in the mines, and I love the mining industry, and that was 40 years ago. And but I enjoyed every bit of it, since I started in 1985. So yeah, that was my short story, I should say. But then I went into South Africa and I had a scholarship and studied there, masters and PhDs, and came over to consulting, work on operations, work in consultancy, work in in research, and ended up coming to academia at UNSW about 9 years ago. And I enjoyed every bit of all the work that I've done in all those different roles.
I think a common theme that I hear from people in the industry all the time is obviously how great it is and how much they love it.
Yep.
They're really, once people are in, they very rarely go. And I think that's a message that we need to be communicating more clearly.
Absolutely, I totally agree with you. Once you get into mining industry, you can't leave. That's it. That's that is the greatest industry, I reckon. Yeah, you see a lot of people changing jobs and industries, but you barely see it in the mining industry because people get in, they just love it. I think they stay longer than any other industry that I know of.
For sure, I've only been in it for 3 years, and I'm not going. Taps, I want to come back to you. You've been involved in the grad program at Yancoal. Can you tell us a little bit about how you found that and how it's assisted you to, smooth your transition from university into the workforce? Any roadblocks you've had to overcome, and what supported you to kind of like get around any difficulties that you had to face?
Yeah, so I'm currently in month 9 of my grad program. Started in February. The thing that I've really enjoyed about the program has been the fact that for a lot of it, I have had a chance to really govern where I decide to take the program, if that makes sense. There's been a lot of openness and discussions about, okay, Taps, what do you want to get out of this experience? Where do you want to do your next rotation? And even just when I start my rotations, it's a matter of having a chat with the superintendents, and first question they always ask me is, what are you wanting to get out of this experience? What can we do to make sure that when you leave our team, you've gotten the best exposure possible, as well as whatever skills that you're wanting to learn out of this time? And I think that's been something that's been really good in terms of it allows me to sort of explore the areas that I'm interested in, or I think I could be interested in, while at the same time having a lot of support from those superintendents. They're open to me, just superintendents are very busy people, but I've found with all the ones that I've had, I've just always just rocked up in their office and I'm like, hi, how's your day been? Questions? And they've all been really open to those questions. If it's a matter of I'm wanting to step out into another department and try something else, they're also open to having those discussions. And even just the workforce as well, everyone's been very accommodating to my many questions, of which as a grad, that's something that I think is something that you need to do. You need to just go out and ask questions. Not everyone's going to want you asking questions because people are busy, but I found everyone's made the time to teach me, to impart wisdom. And I think that's something which has been really important, because starting a new organisation is always difficult, and if you've got people around you that are willing to help you and mentor you through that process, it makes things a lot easier.
So what I'm really hearing is you suggesting that for young people to feel attracted to an industry, they need to feel like it's relational, and that the hierarchies are not so fixed, that there's capacity to sort of interact across levels and not feel like you're the new person and you're not allowed to go and talk to someone more senior who's able to support you in your career development. Is that an important message that we need to get across, do you think, to employers in our mission to attract a new generation of mining talent?
Yeah, 100%. I think stepping back even just from being a grad, being a high school graduate, making that transition from high school to uni can be challenging because you're still in that mindset of, this is my teacher, they're important, I can't bother, like, you can ask them questions, but this is someone who, you know, tells me what to do, when to do it. And then you go to uni and you treat it as an adult. You are an adult. And I guess sort of making that transition from high school to uni mindset of the lecturer is not this big scary person. This is someone, you know, it's just a person doing a job. They're there to help me. Go to them during their, you know, their assistant times to ask them questions. I think that's something which needs to be translated definitely into industry of like, yes, there is a hierarchy, but at the same time, we're all just people and people are approachable. And I think that's, yeah, definitely something that's important.
It's not so much a lack of respect for the hierarchy, it's more, I think, a desire to get an insight into how things work at all levels, yeah. Ismet, what TAPS is saying about the relational nature of the university programs and how supportive they are, that's certainly, I think, what the School of Mining and Energy Resource Engineering at UNSW really embodies. And certainly, you know, what I hear from your undergraduate and graduate students is that they really value that support. Can you tell us more? I know that your student numbers are on a really positive upward trajectory. Can you tell us more about why you think that might be?
Well, a couple of reasons for it. As we've seen in Gavin's stats just now, there's definitely lack of knowledge of the mining industry, the mining engineering, the mining as a whole, right? So students, particularly young minds, don't understand what the mining is about, right? So, I mean, I'm not going to go and present the same stuff that I do nearly every week, but anything and everything around us is they come from the mines, right? And what we are doing right now is really we're not promoting how good the salaries are, right? So that's what we did for many years. How good salaries are. Well, there are a lot of opportunities to travel. When you look at the new generation, they really pay little attention to money these days, right? They want to be part of the solution. They want to change the world, right? And then we basically give them the opportunity to change the world and be part of the solution going forward in energy transition. Now we see all these energy transition talks going on, but if there is no critical minerals, if there's no rare earth minerals, there's no transition whatsoever, right? And some people do understand it, and some others don't. Like we've seen as Gavin's stats again, a lot of kids don't understand it. The moment you present it, the moment you talk to them about it, and they all come to us and they say, well, we've never seen this at the school. No, none of our teachers showed anything like this. And we didn't know this. And they still think that they can go and buy lithium from Coles or Woolworths, right? So it just comes from somewhere. They don't know where it comes from, but it's all mining industry. So we basically give them the opportunity to become the part of the solution going forwards and, you know, reaching those energy transition targets. And then also during the energy transition, that's not to say that we're not going to support coal or anything like that, but that will support the transition, right? Oil, gas, coal will support the transition until we find the solution in terms of renewable energies. This is my own personal opinion, although we have a very strong engineering discipline at UNSW, I think just by solars or by wind, we will not be able to achieve the energies we need. We need additional renewable energy sources. And then that's what we do as well. So we get into unconventional geothermals and then obviously carbon storage and lots of other things that we try to sort of say, well, we're going for net carbon zero future, and that's what we got to do, and we have to do it. And that's what we do. And that you can see immediately the minds change very quickly. They realize that well, this is the truth, right? We're not lying or anything like that. This is the truth. The reality is, and then when they face the reality, they understand it, and I think that played a substantial role together with your dinners, and thanks to yourself as Minister Councillor and yourself. When we talk about these things at the dinners, they basically, you can see the minds changing very quickly.
And it comes back to the point that Gavin made in relation to those statistics about how values-based the Generation Z cohort is. And at New South Wales Minerals Council, we currently have a TV commercial running, and the tagline is New South Wales mining responsibly for today and tomorrow. And I think in that slogan, we're really trying to tap into that. Given that focus on responsible mining, Larissa, what do you think we can do to reassure young people that responsible mining is occurring, and it will continue to occur now and into the future? You come from the Hunter Valley, the coal industry. Tell us from your perspective how we can provide that assurance and continue to attract people into that sector.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. I think it's a really interesting question, and picking up on what Ismet was saying, it is really about educating people that they can be part of the solution in joining the industry. So for me, you know, the coal mining community in particular in the Hunter Valley has always been really active in the community, active in what we do in the environmental space. Very fitting that we're in the ESG space here, so that's the new buzzword, so environmental social governance. I know that we overuse acronyms in our industry, so I do try and spell them out. It's more than just about the environment and community. It's about how we conduct our business as well. It's about diversity and inclusion, which the industry's got a really strong focus on at the moment. So it's all encompassing. So I think that can really support us to have these conversations with young people. I know myself from interacting with careers advisors and students in the area, there is that stigma associated to mining. So we really need to do what we can do to be passionate about our industry. Those of us that are within the industry can do more. So there's certain things that companies can do, but there's things that individuals can do as well. So I know myself, I've been in the industry for 15 years. I'm very passionate about it. So I encourage other people to do that as well. So getting out there and speaking positively about our industry, being a real champion for what we do. As Ismet said, it's about educating people on the fact that mining is all around us, and a lot of young people from those stats presented earlier don't know that to be the case. So it's just about how we have those conversations. And I know in particular that's something that we concentrate on doing at Bloomfield. So we've got an employee newsletter, and we even have a section in there called Barbecue Chat. And it just throws out some statistics on things that mining does for the world and for the community that people might not be aware of, so that when you get that friend or family member question what you do for a living, and it's a really tough conversation to have with people you love, you know, you've got some facts around what the industry does, and you can have those healthy conversations with people to provide some education. And that's certainly what we need to do with young people to build that pipeline of talent.
Taps, as one of these mysterious Gen Zs that we're all desperately trying to understand and cater to, what do you hear from your friends? How do you speak to them about the work that you do at Yancoal, and what sorts of things do they ask you?
Yeah, so a lot of the conversations that I have with my friends are around, I guess, environmental impact, community impact that mining has. We can all see in the news there's rarely any positive news that comes out in terms of mining, which is a bit disappointing. Even before I started, I probably fed into that news a little bit, and I'd read it and I'd be like, oh my gosh, the mines are so bad. But I think once you're actually in the industry and you're a part of it, the mining industry is one of the most highly regulated industries in Australia, and until you actually step into it and you're a part of it, you don't necessarily see that. So I think definitely having a bit more transparency, for a better word, would be beneficial, just to sort of, I guess, highlight that to people that, look, we aren't just given free rein to operate. We have a lot of rules that we have to follow. And that's something which I usually push to my friends, that okay, that's what you read in the news, but this is the reality of what I guess that might look like on my site. We've got environmental teams that are on our case constantly about improving the way we operate or making sure that we are operating in an ethical manner. And it's just a matter of, I guess, highlighting those little things that people that aren't in the industry don't know about. And that's usually how I sort of handle those conversations with my friends.
And does it land well? Are you able to get the message through?
To an extent, yep.
Yeah, I think people don't know what they don't know, and a little bit of information goes a long way without necessarily, being a propagandist for the industry or an evangelist or whatever term you want to use. Certainly, sharing what we know is a really important part of making sure that the appeal of working in mining is, as we've said before, well communicated. Look, we've got about 4.5 minutes to go. So as we wrap up this panel, I'm going to ask each of you for one piece of advice that you would offer to people in the audience today who are tackling recruitment challenges. Where should they target their efforts for maximum effectiveness? Ismet?
For the people hiring students?
Yeah.
Well, as I was telling Larissa, I would suggest come and be present on campus, right? So if the students don't know you, they will never come to you. They will never apply. And remember, there's a big competition out there. The students that come to my office with 3, 4, 5 different offers in their hands. And they say, well, just tell me which one should I choose, right? So there's a big competition. It's not only in the mining industry, but also other industries, such as tunnels now going everywhere in Sydney or elsewhere in the big cities. And again, the new generation may prefer to stay in big cities rather than going small mining towns. But also, that's one thing. The second one is explain everyone coming to your mine. Students, I know students go and visit different mines, different operations, how critical your operation is, right? It is very, very important for general public to understand it. And then they will come and find you. I mean, I have a lot of students, they come and tell me that, yeah, I'd like to work for this company because during the summer school, which we run before they start the year, because I was there and that they told me, this guy told me this and told me that. And it was always there in their minds, and they come and work for you at a later stage. But also be patient. So this new generation is really, really different than what I used to be, in fact, at least. They're different, so be patient and work together with them. It's very important. Work together with them if you want to attract them.
Thanks. Taps?
Use your current workforce to your advantage. One of the things which I think, I'm not sure if HR people know about it or not. Before I've ever accepted any job, I've always done a little LinkedIn stalk, found someone that works there, hit them up and been like, hey, so what's it actually like to work there? I know HR's explained that this is what your culture's like, but is that the reality of what it looks like within your workplace? And then I'd also say chat with your current grads and VAC students. You've been successful in the past. These are people that have a more informed opinion of what that looks like in actuality, what you're offering. So have a chat with them and just sort of see where their mind's at and what they think you could do differently or better.
Awesome. Larissa, you're the HR rep on the panel today.
I love that you're doing that, Taps. I hadn't heard of that, but we do it the other way around. We go on and look at Facebook and Instagram profiles to check that you're an okay human before we put you on. So, each to their own on that one. Yeah, in terms of this question, I think there's two parts to it, right? So there's what companies can do and what individuals can do. So as a company, Bloomfield, we're quite active with the Minerals Council. So as Sam said, I work with Sam on the careers working group for the New South Wales Minerals Council as the chair. We strongly, I guess, advocate for careers in mining through things like careers dinners. We get careers advisors on site. We run mine tours. So we're really active in that space. Something that we've run on site is an Educators Meets Industry program where we've tried to work with key influencers in young people's lives to build a pipeline of talent. So we got careers advisors onto site for 5 days, a boots on the ground approach. and they got to know quite a few people in that process and were able to advocate for the careers in mining. So we found that to be an excellent way to reach more students. And then from an individual perspective, I spoke about it earlier on. So if you're already in the industry or you want to advocate for what we do within the industry, I encourage you to do that. So use your voice. There's enough negative voices out there around mining. We saw that on the news. So use your voice to spread positive messages and be that champion for change.
Thanks. Couldn't agree more. Look, we are bang on time. Congratulations. Good on us. I would like to really thank Ismet, Taps and Larissa for coming on the panel and having a chat with me today. They will all be at dinner tonight. If you want to hit them up and have a further discussion, please do. None of them mind a chat. And it's been really fun to have the opportunity to share some thoughts with you all today. Thank you very much. I also would like to welcome Danny Tamati, I hope I pronounced that correctly, who is our next presenter, facilitator on stage now. Thank you.